I was surprised in looking at some of the vacant land in the city that taxes on them, that, like some parcels that are access to larger parcels, the taxes on them are extremely low. It doesn't seem to me to reflect their value as potentially access to a developable parcel, just as a vacant lot, you know.
All right, just to make this official, we're calling the regular meeting of the Housing Commission, City of Oneonta, May 4th, to order at 7:03 p.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman,
Here.
Commissioner Vacancy. Here. Commissioner Fox. Here. Commissioner Friedman.
Here.
Commissioner Shue.
Here.
Commissioner Westchester.
Here.
Commissioner Armstrong. Here. Councilmember Harrison.
Here.
Was there any correspondence? Okay, so we look for a motion to approve the minutes of your April 6th meeting, such as it was.
So moved.
Should be somebody was here. You were here.
I was.
Is there a second?
I'll
Any objection? Hearing none, we will accept by acclamation. Now, at some point, this commission decided we were going to go from a chair, co-chair to two co-chair arrangements, and then the other co-chair has resigned. So either we need to go back to a chair, vice chair, or then elect a vice chair, or we need to go back and elect a co-chair. What are your thoughts?
Why do you promote it with those, only those two options? Don't we have another option of
What would that be?
appointing a chair?
Well, you still have one, but I'd be happy to step down. But it's housekeeping issues. Right now, I had no intentions of that, but if you think that would be appropriate, Peter, I'm willing. Sorry, this is always wrong. So does anyone have any preference?
Currently, we have co-chair structure, right?
That is current construction. That's what we agreed on. Yes, we can stay that way, and if anyone's interested in being co-chair, they just need to raise their hand.
On the flip side, are you okay with just being the chair person?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay with anything.
Okay.
I think that my preference would be to just elect one chair and then a vice chair.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Pete?
I said, I agree.
Okay. So then I think we can go back to the chair, vice chair arrangement, and if there, you think we need a vote for that, Karen? Okay. So then the motion that you've made is that we'll go to the chair, vice chair form of governance here.
Yeah.
Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Second by Rachel. Is there any further questions or comments? None. Okay. Please call the roll.
Chairman,
Aye.
Commissioner Vacancy.
Aye.
Commissioner Fox.
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman.
Yes.
Commissioner Shue.
Aye.
Commissioner Westchester.
Yes.
Commissioner Armstrong.
Aye.
Now, is anyone interested in being vice chair?
I would like to nominate a chair, if we're going to that different structure.
Well, I mean, frankly, unless I resign, that option's not on the table.
I don't agree.
Okay.
You're not the chair, you're a co-chair.
Okay.
So I would like to nominate a chair And I would like to nominate Jen as the chair.
Any comments?
What about Jen as a co-chair?
Well, I would second Jen as a chair, so before we, have comments, I would second.
How do you feel, Jen? Oh, that was pressure, sorry.
That was pressure. I want to do what is best for the city and the commission. And whatever their will is, I will abide. And I would be honored.
I think we need more young people involved in city government, and we have failed to do that for years, to even bring them into these boards. Jen seems to have a lot of experience with housing kinds of issues, and so I think as a young person with that kind of experience, it would be good if she was orchestrating what happens in our meetings.
Now, Scott, you look very puzzled, so.
I am. I'm puzzled by legal stuff. I'm not puzzled by anybody being nominated or anything.
Sure.
I don't know. Just, if you have two co-chairs and one resigns, you still have a chair.
Right.
So I'm not sure that that automatically makes it that he's not the chair. I don't know.
I've sought.
I'm just confused on legal. That's all.
I've sought legal advice on this very issue, and
Well,
it was confirmed for me that a co-chair is not automatically a chair.
If the chair resigns? Is that what you
Whether
mean?
the co-chair resigns or not,
Oh, okay.
co-chair is not automatically the chair.
Okay, gotcha, I'm sorry.
I don't know who you talk to.
What's it?
I said, I don't know who you talk to.
I spoke with the city attorney.
Scott, did you hear anything from the city attorney?
I didn't hear anything from the city attorney.
Gary, did you?
I've actually just sent him a message to see if he's near his phone. I don't know one way or the other.
Yeah, I have no clue. I'm just. That's out of my wheelhouse. I'm not an attorney, so.
You're not the captain of the boat either.
I am not. You wouldn't want me to be the captain of the boat. We'd hit a rock down. I'll be honest.
Where do you get out of my wheelhouse as an expression to use in upstate New York? There's no big word.
I don't, that got passed down through my family, so maybe somebody in my family once was a captain. I have no idea. I like to fish, that's about it.
Well, that takes us back to our original discussion of, do we have two co-chairs? I know we already talked about this, and then, or a chair and a vice chair.
You voted to return to the chair-vice chair structure. City attorney states the new chair should be elected unless the co-chair structure is set forth in statute.
Which I don't think it is.
So what if we had Ed continue to be chair for this year, and then Jen step in as co-chair this year, or not co-chair, but vice chair, and then moves up into that position the following year?
Sounds reasonable.
But we have the motion to make her chair on the floor now, right?
Okay.
It either has to be voted upon or withdrawn.
Her, Jen.
I'm not withdrawing it, so.
Yes.
Joan.
I don't know, I think you guys need to come to a conclusion of what you want.
Carrie,
Yes.
Do we vote on that motion and then another motion made for vice chair?
Yes.
Okay.
So the vote is, yeah.
Well, it's been seconded. So who calls the vote?
If there's no further discussion, I do.
I'm just trying to understand what folks want. I mean, this is, volunteer efforts and,
Everybody's looking out for the good, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear people's thoughts on why we're electing a new chair.
Well, I do think that bringing new, younger perspective to the city is critical to our future. And I think Jen has the leadership experience and the connections and the ability to be chair.
I don't doubt it, that's why she's sitting at this table, sure.
Exactly.
right. And I'll give you an opinion, and you can do with it as you see fit. While having younger people involved is important, having historical knowledge is irreplaceable. Having done housing development for 53 years is hard to duplicate. And the younger folks don't have that, so we always try to find a blend of the experience and the youthful enthusiasm, we'll say. And again, this is a little off topic and it's more of an observation. We've been working in the housing in this city for 53 years. And we haven't done well. I mean, you're in the real estate business. How many new single-family homes have been built in the city of Oneonta?
I don't have a figure, town.
Well, not the city, that's not specific, the city. So, take a guess.
In the past
50 years.
50 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Single-family houses?
Single-family, individual, single-family homes all.
15?
You could be generous at 15. How many, low-income or supported housing units have we built in that same period of time?
I really don't want to get into a quiz.
It's not a quiz.
And I think your point is really illustrating the fact that we older people have failed to solve the city's housing problems. And you and I have been on boards for years.
Yes, sir.
We've been in positions of responsibility.
Yes,
We did not accomplish it.
correct.
And look at this, the city is way worse than it was when we started.
In terms of,
And in terms of the economy, in terms of the population, in terms of the quality of education, in terms of the quality of housing,
I concur.
I think we need to give it up. I think young people are much fresher of mind and much more familiar with things that are going on today.
Okay.
And I think they need to have this opportunity now, because I think this is our last breath. Now, I don't mean our last breath as older people, but I think as a community, as a community, I think this is our last breath. Hmm?
And Ed, I actually agree with you that the breadth and depth of your knowledge and my knowledge and Peter's knowledge, everybody else, I think, is, Rachel, you're in the young crowd, is is younger, and that's why we're on the housing commission together. Because there's no reason why we can't continue to work together, to collaborate, and to move the issues forward.
Clearly, we wouldn't all be here if we weren't passionate about it and working together for a common goal.
Sure.
Is what we want to do.
But don't you have a voice even as vice chair? I mean,
Oh.
right? I mean,
Everybody has a voice. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, what the chair does in these things is basically maintain a direction,
Mhm.
maintain a
Okay.
flow. You know, and some of the things that we started to bring to pass here, I mean, I've looked at everything the commission did before I got involved, after I got involved, I've watched the things last meeting from Florida. And if we're going to make strides, I mean, I watched the council last night, you know, when they went through the plans for downtown. Without housing, they've come to the conclusion nothing's gonna happen. And our original charge on this commission by Mayor Herzig was to focus on market rate housing. That charge lasted about 12 minutes before we got a presentation from Judy about grants and things for low-income housing. And we've been very successful at low-income housing in this community for 50 years. And without trying to have numbers, I mean, it's in the hundreds, it's in the high 300s of housing units that have been built. And most recently, only on the Heights. And as Peter said, all the things we've been involved with have come right back to that. And yet our current mayor has charged us with trying to provide housing for younger, what he calls gig workers. So they're gonna need certain things. They're gonna need infrastructure, a nice place to live. Most of them may prefer condos or even rentals as opposed to traditional home ownership. That's what I see around the country. And they're going to need high-speed internet. And they typically, when they call them gig workers, they're looking at gigabit internet, bi-directional. Now, we don't have that really anywhere in the city. This is a side note, we do have it at the airport, but not here in the city. So we've got to find a way to bring those things to bear.
It sounds like you're going off on a tangent and I don't understand its relativity to the issue at hand.
The relativity, Peter, was you're saying that the old folks don't have, you know, a grasp on what has to happen. And in many respects, I think that's true. And younger folks do need to step in because we're not going to be around forever. But without the perspective of what we have done and the results we have achieved, we're likely to repeat those in the future.
But isn't your involvement on the commission going to give that history and that knowledge still?
Yes, ma'am. But you have to have someone that like drives an issue, like how many properties does the city own? Someone had to ask that question. And then someone had to get that information. And if your leadership doesn't have that thought and doesn't get that information, how would we expect the rest of us to?
Well, you know, on the other hand, with regard to young people and old people involved with city government, I think as an old person, both you and I are missing a lot of the possibilities out there because we're stuck in our old ways. I mean, when I listen to you speak, and I do the same thing, mostly what I'm hearing is animosity towards city government. And I feel the same way. I feel like, you know, city government has failed. And I really have very little hope that city government can do the right thing because I've been here so long watching it do the wrong thing. And I think it's time for young people who have new vision of different ways of doing things that we didn't have. Sure. I think it's time for us to get out of the way. And I think, you know, we should stay on this board and we should make the contributions that we have to make. I'm just saying that we need younger leadership that I think has a broader scope than we older people have.
I also think that the demographic that we're trying to attract is represented in the younger people. That's who we want to build housing for. That's who we want to move into the city. And who better knows what is appropriate and what will attract people than that generation.
So, this is clearly political, let's just call it for what it is, but let me just say this. Ed, how many committees have you chaired?
I don't know, Sharon, how many?
That I can think of off the top of my head.
I mean, currently, Airport Commission, Board of Assessment Review, and this.
We don't need our chair to, you know, design these housing developments, right? I mean, we need a chair to organize and run a meeting. That's what the chair does.
Set the agenda.
Yeah.
So me being new to the commission, my thought was, why can't we combine the years of experience with the new generation, knowing that we have succession, that's gonna be awesome. No, you know, when Ed's done, then you're gonna move in, we don't have to worry about it the following year, you know, and it's not like you guys can't work together, we all work together. Whether, and again, I agree, the commission chair pretty much just runs the structure of the meeting, but and I'm sorry, I'm just learning here.
Audrey?
So how do the minutes come together? The agenda for the meeting? Is it a participation with everybody's thoughts, or?
My experience with it is that topics go to the chair decides what the agenda is.
Okay, so as the chair, would you dismiss things for the agenda, or would you want them to be on there for everybody to discuss?
Well, I think they should be all inclusive, that's why we
Right,
started with this
okay.
today.
Agreed.
Yeah,
We could have ignored this elephant in the room and just gone on with the meeting. But I thought it was important to have a clear structure.
mm-hmm. I like knowing that this year and next year, we've got it all planned, and it could be a great success for us.
Well, I think so. I mean, we have to have, more than getting our structure together, we need to agree on deliverables. I mean, one of the things the Mayor Drenick wanted was deliverables, the actions, we need to come up with actions that the city could take. Not these broad brush suggestions like we need more housing. I mean, we all know that. That doesn't require a lot of energy. What specific steps could they say? What could the city do to help implement the goal of more housing? There are things that any municipality can do. I work in municipalities in Florida and in Maine. I know how they work and how they encourage you to come and invest your money and time. I think it's important that we look at all forms of housing. You know, market rate housing, condo developments, apartment houses, single-family homes, and homes for immigrants. I think there's a lot of area to work on. But to come up with deliverables on each one of those is going to be difficult. So my suggestion was to have, subcommittees within the commission with a couple of us working together on individual problems, different, and bring them back and report to the commission as a whole. So that my goal is just to bring some structure. I don't know what Peter's goal is. I mean, I don't think think so far the commission has come a long way to present structure. And we've listened to an opening salvo from Mayor Herzig. We had people come down from Utica and talk about the immigrants and the policies there and what we're willing to support there. We need more workers, there's no question about it. You know, I'm working with another group right now to bring in manufacturing, and we're talking about 150,000 square foot building down the railroads. And there's a lot of things going on right now. When they get here, where are they gonna find people? That was the question they asked me this afternoon at 1:30. You know, what if we need housing? And it's been on the table for a long time. Right after 9/11, we were approached by folks wanting to move their insurance company back office to Long Island. People could be anywhere. They needed office space, high-speed internet, and then a place for 100 families. Well, we could manage the first two. We couldn't find the housing. And these were out of New York City, high-paying jobs at the time. So if we're going to attract this stuff, we've got to be ready for it. And Rachel may have seen these things in her banking career, and I'm sure Joan has in the real estate business. I mean, I have. I know you have. You and I met about that. I know Jared has. You've got a good mix of people here. I mean, sitting with an architect in here, it's important. You know, Peter has vast experience in code enforcement. You know, I think Audrey does in housing. So it's a matter of how, as a group, we can put all this together and come up with deliverables, not just a meeting every month. What specific steps could the city take or implement to promote housing? So my original thought was, and that's the reason I mentioned the properties, I had no idea how many properties the city owned. I was frankly shocked. I called up Hank Scherr because he's a real property in the county and asked that question of him. I tried doing it through our prior assessor, but he was in the process of transitioning. But it took Hank, you know, about 24 hours to get back to me with a list. Now, I'm sure anyone here could have asked for that list. And it would have been supplied. But you have to have the hint that there's property that's sitting around vacant, fallow, unused for a long period of time. Parcels up to 20 acres. That's pretty scary. It could be brought into the housing market. I mean, the thing the city has is limited land mass. A lot more has happened out in the town. They have more land but less infrastructure. And that should be part of our discussion going forward. It's our infrastructure that's allowed a lot of the town to grow. And I think at some point in this housing commission, that should be part of the discussion, and how we might deal with that, and how we might bring them to the table, or to concern, to share their concerns with us. Why do we have a city in town? I don't know. But it impacts the relationship on city housing. So those are the 50,000 foot view thoughts that I have had and have started mapping out for us to work on. And if we don't like that direction and we think that we want a different type of, leadership, I'm not opposed to that. It's not like I have a dearth of activity in my life. So what do you folks think?
I think it's time to call the vote.
vice chair.
Aye.
Commissioner Beckenstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Fox?
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman?
Yes.
Commissioner Shu?
No.
Commissioner Les Jessup?
Guess no.
Commissioner Armstrong?
Aye.
Passes.
So now we need a nomination for vice.
Just taking this chair person. Thank you. Wrong spot.
You need a vice chair?
You,
Mm-mm.
I shall. Do I do the nomination? I'm sorry.
Uh,
Do I nominate my vice chair?
You can, just,
Okay,
you're the chair now, so
yes,
the meeting is yours.
okay, okay.
Okay.
Well, without preparation, I will do my very best. I very much respect Ed May and his background and everything he's done for the city, and I hope he will continue to work with us. I guess I would, if we should nominate you're gonna have to give me a minute to get my feet under me. I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of ideas, so bear with me. And I guess I would nominate Joan to be the co-chair,
vice chair.
vice chair.
I second it.
You're good with that too, June? Just check.
Is there any discussion? Okay. Then then we'll call it to a vote.
My order changes. Chair Armstrong?
Aye.
Commissioner May?
Aye.
Commissioner Beckenstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Fox?
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman?
Yes.
Commissioner Shu?
Yes.
Commissioner Les Jessup?
Yes.
Okay. How's everyone doing?
This is my first city commission. I didn't realize there was so much conspiring within a commission, but it's kind of an eye-opener, honestly. That's it. That's my statement. Thanks.
Any other comments? Okay, I guess we'll follow the agenda that's been set. Old business, fair housing plan update.
I think that the fair housing plan was distributed to everybody. Did everybody have a chance to review it? It was reviewed by our city attorney. Any comments, questions, concerns?
What in this plan do we currently do as a city already?
No. What's currently in in place is that the community development director is the fair housing officer. So that's specified now in the plan. And it follows, I think, a city resolution back in November of the year before. The rest of this plan really is how is information going to be shared with city residents as it relates to discrimination in housing, what's legal, what's not legal, and how will the city promote either educational opportunities or otherwise promote information about fair housing within the city. And then, as required by regulation, how will the city assess what impediments to fair housing there are within the city?
What would you say are the impediments to fair housing right now? Do you know yet? or
I don't
no?
know.
Okay,
I
right.
don't know.
Okay,
But there are entities that it is their job to help municipalities assess
gotcha. Okay.
where they are in terms of, landlords within the cities, realtors, lending institutions, all of that, to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Thank you.
And I believe that April was Fair Housing Month in New York State,
Yep, nationally.
nationally. Okay.
So fair housing, it's also required as part of our funding processes. So we're required to have a fair housing, fair housing plan. And this was drafted with input from the Housing Commission, also through our office, and then reviewed by the city attorney. So we feel comfortable with the document that's been drafted as the city government.
And I believe that it's a requirement to have a fair housing plan in order to receive
It,
federal funding.
yes, it's required.
Is it appropriate under item 5, let's see, number 2, to specifically name an organization, CNY Fair Housing? Like
That's the entity that will do that work for Otsego County. There is only that one. But if you're not comfortable with it, we could take it out.
I'm just asking the commission if, just,
I mean, the city could definitely do the work itself. If that's what you think is more appropriate.
Steve, we don't really have the staff for you guys to do it.
I mean, I would be curious about staffing ability to do that.
The city has limited staff. We're struggling to maintain services we offer as it is. I'll be honest with you. And I don't see that getting any better. I don't see money going into personal services line and
yeah.
at this time.
Okay,
At this time.
How do we change that, so?
How do we change it? Didn't work.
Who knows, 1,000 people with
I mean, you could obviously change it to be something more broad, and then we
I was
could
just
do it as
thinking,
like a,
in the public sector, you don't typically solicit, you don't sole source unless there's no other option, you know what I mean? So,
I mean, we could broaden it, I mean, but I mean, I think working under the understanding that the city would be doing that work is probably not realistic. But I understand what you're saying. Would the commission be then sending a clarification as to what they want to change that wording to? If we weren't to specifically name the, or is that something you guys just want to draft like we did before?
If that's the only change, then a motion can be made to approve this plan to move forward to the common council with that change. I think, right here.
Which, just page number and section so we can.
It's last page, item number 2.
I just don't want to hold anything up if we need to take action on
Jared, do you have suggested language for that?
Well, if we could, like Steven said, we could make it more broad, but if the only other option is to have the city do it, then, you know,
And
then.
the city doesn't have the bandwidth, then.
Well,
It doesn't convey, it says explore the possibility.
Hey, Steve,
it. Yep.
how hard would it be to change that later on if we had to, at the council level?
Nah.
Not? So I don't know if that helps answer your
Yeah,
question.
I mean, that's something that would just be simply changed through like an amendment to the ordinance. So if we found that it wasn't working, we could always come back and change it later. I mean, the council would just have to vote on it like we do any other regulatory change.
right, and again, as Joan pointed out, it says explore the possibility. If the possibility doesn't exist, you've explored it, and
Right.
Right. So can we get a motion?
so moved
What's your motion though?
to approve the plan. For however you word that forward to the common council.
Just write that, Carrie. Yes. However that goes.
So then your motion is to approve the plan as submitted? Is that what I'm hearing?
That was my motion.
And then, as you said, you can always propose a change to that.
You can always propose a change to it. You could all, I mean, the common council could debate this for 2 hours and decide that they want to change it. I mean,
Yeah, we're good.
that is the beauty of the government. So, I mean, I would just hate to have this bogged down for another month.
Right.
So we can talk about, I mean, but you can obviously include in your recommendation to council that they also review that. I mean,
Okay.
it's pretty, you know, that's what they're there to do, is talk about it.
I second the motion.
Next under old business, we have.
Nope, we have a vote.
Before you vote, you have to ask for any additional discussion.
My apologies.
It's okay.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, I would like to call a vote.
Chair Armstrong,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fox,
Aye.
Commissioner May,
Aye.
Commissioner Bekenstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman,
Yes.
Commissioner Shu,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz Jessup.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Next under old business, we have document review. Ed, this is your agenda. Can you help me walk through this?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
We had a bunch of documents sent around for people to review of things that we've done in the city before to get some idea of what we've tried, what we haven't tried along the lines that Peter brought up. And then there was a suggestion made of 4 areas: low income, market rate, zoning, and government. Set up maybe subcommittees that might be willing to work on those issues and bring back deliverables as they impact on housing and the city's ability to provide for it. So, I mean, you guys might want to think about it again and, you know, put a merciful end to this meeting and add it to your own agenda. If you have any questions, you can call me.
Thank you, Ed. So I will defer to the commission do we want to table these items to the next meeting? Do we want to move on to, anything else anyone would like to discuss?
I did a little research and prepared some information. It's just information for everybody to have. It gives a kind of a historical and current snapshot of where the housing market is in the Oneonta School District. So the difficulty is that it's not just the city of Oneonta, it's the town of Oneonta and parts of Milford, Davenport, and Lawrence. That's what the Oneonta School District. This information comes from the multiple listing service. And I think I made 8 copies. So if I didn't make enough, I can get everybody who didn't get a copy tomorrow. I have it.
I'm sure you guys get it.
And I apologize, I don't have I'm not really good
Is it too?
formatting. So the first chart shows you the number of sales. So line 1, maybe you and I can share and Steve can help.
Are there extras? You can keep them. I'm just a peanut gallery.
No, I'll send you.
Well, I mean, if they're extras, I'll take one. I just didn't want to take one if you guys didn't have enough for the
Well,
commission.
I can send you one tomorrow.
Yes.
So the first line shows what's going on in the market. Since January 1st, there are 19 houses for sale in the in the Oneonta School District. There are 6 pending, that means under contract, the buyer is in the process of purchasing. 42 have been sold. And I don't know what other means. So the second chart talks about what these properties look like. And the interesting part of it is that the average listing price for a house in the Oneonta School District is $227,261. And the average selling price is $202,710. Everything else is interesting, and you can absorb it at your leisure. So then I looked at what the median household income is in this, I think this is Oneonta Town and City. And I just pulled it from Google, and that equals $54,028. So if you took somebody or a family with $54,028 income and they went to a bank, what would they qualify for in a monthly payment? And that would include principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So that payment would equal $1,260 a month. And I just took average figures and figured that taxes on a property would be about $375, city taxes, city, town, and county, and insurance at $100 a month, which would allow for a principal payment of $785. So at different interest rates, at the beginning of the year, our interest rates were below 3%. So January 1st, below 3%. Right now, we're at about 5%. The Fed met today. They don't affect mortgage rates, but traditionally, when Fed rates go up and in the spring rates go up, I think we're going to see by the end of the year at least 6%. So a 5% 5% loan would allow $146,000. That's what somebody who made $54,028 a year could qualify for. And then you would add in their down payment. And you can get financing with as low as 3%. Most people, I would say probably in Oneonta, probably 60% qualify for federally insured loans, which are FHA, VA, or rural housing, and lower down payment. So basically, we're looking at affordability. Somebody would afford about $150,000 house
At the median income.
at the median income, right? Now, what I don't have is how many people are in the different income categories. But we can already see that the average sale price is $200,000, and median income people can afford about $150,000. So that is a gap between what people make and what houses are selling for. And then on the next page, if interest rates go up to 6%, people can qualify for an even lower priced house. You can see about between 135,000 to 100, if they're putting 20% down, maybe 160. Then below that, you see some, so it's not looking pretty here, right? You can see the number of sales or sides. So in real estate, there's sides, so you just divide this in half. Historically, in 2018, we had 74, so figure about 32 houses sold in the Oneonta School District. In 2021, we had a lot more, so we had about 66 houses. In 2022, now I believe this is from January to the end of March, right? Year over year. So in 2018, from January to the end of March, first quarter, we had the 32 houses. In 2022, we had 80 houses, or 40. So if you take that number on the bar graph and divide it in half. So you can see that the number of houses is declining, and the average sale price is going up quite significantly. So in 2020, the average sale price was $140,000, and now we're over $200,000.
This is a national trend, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Of those 42 sold, that was last year?
I believe that this is from the beginning, so it's from January 1st, 2022 to the end of March.
Gotcha, okay.
Right.
So of those 42, how many were sold to people out of town that turned them into some
That's-
rentals?
Yeah. That's not something that I can track through the multiple listings in this data. What you can see, though, is that what people who reside in the city can qualify for and can afford
Doesn't
is
exist.
much lower
Yeah,
than
right.
what houses are selling for. So I think you can kind of conclude that a lot of properties are being sold to people either coming from out of the area, moving here, or out of the area and owning the houses. We don't know for sure.
I mean, we could fairly easily, if we had a list of properties that sold, we can just cross-reference them with our database in the office and tell you exactly what they're used for. Like if you said, these are the addresses, I could be like, yep, and these are 2-family, 3-family, 4-family. Because we track all that, I mean, we've mapped all that, like most of Center City. You have a concentration of rental property in Center City, so a lot of what you're selling in Center City is multifamily housing. It's listed as multifamily housing, it's operated as multifamily housing, it's priced as multifamily housing.
Can you track which houses that have been sold are now rentals, but were
Yeah.
not rentals before?
We register all rentals, so if you have a legally operating rental in the city of Oneonta, we have a database with your address on it. So if I have a list of houses that sold this year, I can tell you exactly what they're being used for, or what they're legally being used for.
And you can tell what they were last used for, before the sale.
Yeah, because we would have on file what they were registered as either non-rentals or rentals.
I think it would be good to just have that information at our fingertips in terms of where we go from here with it. I mean, I wouldn't kill yourself getting it to us, but I think.
Well, I mean, if it's only 42 addresses, it'll take me like 2 minutes.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, that's what's happening across the country, right?
Yeah.
Investors are buying
Yeah.
properties from out of the area, they don't care about the community much.
And so
probably.
basically, you can see at the bottom of the page that the number of, that the number of properties is down about 28% from the same time last year. And that the increase in sale price is about 27% from the same time last year.
You know, there was like, 5-10 years ago, I had a sense that when a single-family house in fairly good shape came on the market, often owner occupants were priced out of the market by investors and people looking to rent those properties. It wasn't that they didn't get there first, they just couldn't afford to pay
Right.
that. Is there any way we can, I doubt it because it's not a controlled experiment kind of thing, but any way we can tell how much more people are paying for the same house to rent it as opposed to what would have been paid if it was an owner occupant?
Yes, I probably can track the sales, if it's sold in 2009 and then 2013. So I can track it by address,
Yeah,
and then with Steve's help, we can look at the address of the owners.
so if we had an intern or two, this could be something that could be gathered for us.
I think what's important for us to look at this information and then start to, what's the story behind the numbers? And what do we want to use this information for? For example, if we're talking to a developer, we know, what the average household or the median household can afford. What can a developer build a house, a townhouse, a patio home for? It's not going to be $150,000. Right? I think that we're looking at construction prices between 100 and, I would say, 175 to 225. And I don't know if you know, Ed, but that's,
What's the range per square foot?
yeah.
So I mean, you're
Yeah.
concentrating, their whole thought here is we need more economic activity. And without more economic activity, you're not gonna be able to afford houses. And without housing, you don't get economic activity.
Right.
So you have a conundrum.
The gap though, right, so there's a gap, and that's where possibly the government can come in and fill that gap if we have funding, right? So do we apply for CDBG funding, and do we we start to think that the policy implications are we thinking that we should subsidize developers? Should we subsidize home buyers? You know, I don't know that, but it's food for thought and discussion. But there's a huge gap.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And maybe it's the employers that we partner with to say, you're bringing in 100 jobs, right? Here's the properties that are available. And these are the contractors that might be available to give you prices.
When we're talking about the cost of a new home, we're talking about new construction,
Yes.
but I'm sure that if we were converting existing buildings to more units, it would be somewhat cheaper. I mean, I don't know how much cheaper, if it would matter any, but I think we have several places in the city where we could, I guess I'm getting off the track, never mind.
I have a question. Is there any responsibility of the real estate agent to not sell to the highest bidder?
In real estate, the seller has total control. Well, the responsibility of the real estate agent is to provide all offers to a seller. And then it is the seller's sole prerogative
Yeah.
to, on the offer. And some people don't pick the highest price. Some people, you know, want to sell to a family that they know. And some people don't want mortgage financing. And, you know, it's not, the real estate agents don't make the decisions. The sellers do.
I have another question for Steve. Are you noticing already a difference in property maintenance by out-of-town investment buyers as opposed to owner occupants? Or
I think that, I mean, honestly, I think that is kind of one of those myths of like the guy from out of town is always a jerk and the guy that lives in town is not.
Yeah.
We have landlords that live in South Carolina that keep great properties, and we have landlords that live in Oneonta that are not so great
I was
property owners.
thinking more about the comparison of maintenance on an investor-owned property as opposed to an owner-occupant, in terms of the difference in...
I'm gonna tell you right now, 2 of our worst houses in the city are only owner-owned properties. So I think if you're going into who's better at maintaining property, like, I think if you have a bad landlord that owns 20 parcels, they're all gonna be bad. So you're gonna see a lot of it, and you're gonna be like, that's a bad property owner. We have a couple of really bad owner-occupants that are really bad, probably the worst, but they only own one house, so you only see that one.
And they, I'm guessing, but I know when I was working, they don't come under your rental housing inspection program.
They come under the state fire code, which is exactly what we have them in court for.
I see.
Yeah, owner occupants can be targeted, sorry. The code can be enforced on owner occupants, just like any other occupant. But yeah, so I mean, I think that generally speaking, bad property owners come in all shapes and sizes, and limiting to them to, well, out-of-town landlords are inherently bad, but owner-occupied properties are inherently good. Owner or local owners are always better than out-of-town. It's really a mix. I mean, I think generally speaking, there is a certain like kind of pride in ownership that some homeowners might have that some landlords don't. Some owners maybe will take the additional time to do better work than some landlords, but again, it's kind of all over the place. It's really hit or miss.
Thanks.
Anyone else? volunteer, and there's a lot we all want to do. And everyone equally has great ideas. And I agree, with Ed, that we need a structure, we need subcommittees, we need people tackling projects, and we can bring in volunteers to help us with specific projects. So I need to get my arms around everything and organize that. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at organizing people. I've managed people. I've been in residential housing for a very long time, over 15 years. And from low income to moderate income. So, but I won't give you my resume here, but I will, if anyone would like to discuss anything with me, please feel free to give me a call. And, just want to move forward with this great group of people and these great minds and make a difference here in the city. Because we are in a housing crisis. And there's a lot of great minds in this room. And if we can be a part of that change, I'm excited to be a part of that. So thank you. If we don't have any further business at this moment that anyone else would like to bring up, then I will make a motion to adjourn.
I have a question. Did anything come about from the top secret meeting you had last week?
It wasn't a top
It
secret.
wasn't a top secret.
You could have watched it. It was interesting.
What's that?
You could have watched
Oh, no,
it.
there's-
You're on TV.
No,
Oh, you mean the subgroup that
The
broke
sub-
out to
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about the
that
map,
one wasn't
the
Yeah,
vacant parcels?
yeah.
Who was there?
Peter, Jen, and me.
That's when we looked at this map a little bit, not much, of vacant land in the city.
So what I'm gonna follow up with is, we made a large GIS map that has a lot of information on it. It's available via an ArcGIS link. I sent it to Carrie. You guys will all get that link and you can click on it and that'll take you directly to the map, and it's got all the vacant parcels, it's got utilities, it's got a floodplain, it's got steep slopes. I mean, it's literally a giant development map. So you'll be able to click on it. I think it even will provide you like the property owners for each parcel. The reason we can't print it is it's got so much information on it. If we print it, it's gonna be in code. You won't be able to look at it. It'll be, illegible, because it's just a giant map with lots of stuff on it. But if you have a cell phone or an internet or computer, you'll be able to just click the link and it'll take you right to it. It's got a legend. You can see all the parcels. You might even be able to click on them, I think.
And that's on the city website.
No, we'll send you the link.
Okay.
Just email the link to the entire commission.
So will we be able to use this map with, I know the city doesn't have staff to do this, I think the city doesn't have staff to do this, but for interns, student interns, to take one significant parcel at a time, not every parcel, because there's lots of parcels, right?
Mhm.
One parcel at a time, and identify for that parcel what are the infrastructure issues.
So this map has all the infrastructure on it. This map has steep slopes, like anything that's too steep to build on.
Yeah.
This map has regulated floodways, floodplains. It's got most of that information on it. It's just a lot of information, and if we print it out, it's just gonna look like a bunch of gobbledygook.
So if somebody wanted to build here, can they look at that map, pinpoint the parcel, and say, okay, I can get all this information right away myself? Or would it be better if we developed a listing for each parcel? You know what I mean? Like, this parcel is zoned this way, and it doesn't have water near it. And,
Oh, you mean to like market all the parcels individually?
well, all the primary ones first, the ones that seem most developable offhand.
I mean, if you guys go through the map, you could do that. I mean, you could establish 20 parcels that don't have steep slope issues, that aren't in a floodplain, you could do that and then say, okay, we have these 20 parcels we've identified as potentially usable, and then we could you could work the parcels down from a giant map. I mean, because the map includes like publicly owned ones, it includes privately owned ones, it includes some that are owned by the colleges, and, I mean, they're not all really available. Some of them are, like my neighbor has a next door lawn that's a vacant parcel.
Right.
I don't know if he'd be interested in building a house on it,
Hmm.
because he uses it as his lawn. There's actually 2 of those on my street.
Yeah.
I mean, Kim Muller has 2 parcels. I don't know if Kim Muller is looking to build a house on her side yard. So, I mean, that you've got like some, you know, there's obviously some there that like, you're probably not gonna find people that wanna, you know, I think on that map, like Bassett parking lot is on the map because it's technically a vacant parcel. I mean, maybe Bassett wants to build housing above their parking area. I think that'd be a great idea.
They should.
But convincing Bassett to build an underground or first floor parking garage with housing above it is gonna be kind of up to their, you know, their funding and their,
I'm more concerned with the bigger parcels that either the city owns or the school district owns
yeah.
or the colleges own that they will never use probably. That they're
Yeah, I mean,
just-
Hardwick owns a lot. I mean, so does SUNY Oneonta. So those are ones that,
Yeah.
you know, they're owned by someone other than us, and you would have to convince them that they should do something.
And they're off the tax rolls. Yeah, I mean, I'm personally offended by the cemetery. I mean, we're losing population, we're not gonna have that many dead people here for the next 5,000 years. To be buried in the cemetery off of Cemetery Hill Road, where the big piece of land is off the tax rolls. I mean, I don't know if it's buildable, but it's huge.
I mean, we moved to cemetery before, just move those.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the colleges were off the tax roll. I didn't know that, so.
But, you know, there's so many guilty of being off the tax rolls, and the city and the school district are pretty guilty. And we've ignored that for years, that the city owns so much land that's off the tax rolls that's buildable.
It's time to have these conversations. All right. Anything else, fellow commissioners? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The meeting's adjourned.